like they're lining up.
Well, they're excited.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. We're the Sons of Mjolnir. I'm the Last Gorgon.
I'm Fat Thor.
And I'm Cap.
Cap is back.
You guys, Shield Talk. Cap is back, and he's going to talk all about everything Captain America going on. TJ, why don't you get our man Cap set up with our first topic point for the day?
Yes, so Cap is finally back. We are super happy and excited to have him here. He's been off saving the world, but he is back with us to nerd out, and we are bringing to you guys finally Shield Talk. It is finally here. We're talking all about Captain America. And to kind of start this off and really kind of get us going, I want to ask our resident expert here, Captain America himself. Cap, tell us, so what about Captain America is it that you really identify with? Like, obviously, Cap is your guy. You're the Cap guy. But what is it about Steve and, the title of Captain America in particular that really, that you really identify with, that makes it your favorite character?
I like the question. It's a very interesting one. See, it's not that I don't like it. I'm not a big lover of your typical superhero going out, just getting out, saving the day. I like someone that speaks to me on a spiritual level, which is why Steve is a big part of me. Mm-hmm. He sticks up for the little guy. He sticks up for everyone and anyone. So growing up, I was always one of the ones. I hung around with the ones that you could say were easily picked on. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. They're my friends, I don't like seeing my friends get bullied for what they're interested in, how they look, the way they behave. So being someone that didn't like that, I found comfort in Steve and Captain America, because he never let somebody's look, somebody's religion, somebody's ethnicity, or their interests, like, sum that person up, Mm-hmm. So I like how Steve sticks up for the little guy, in short. Mm-hmm. That's what I relate to in Steve.
Yeah, and I mean, especially even like we were talking about kind of before we started recording, I mean, you obviously live in Ireland. So for your favorite character to be Captain America is kind of funny and interesting. But I mean, I can't disagree with any of the points you made. I mean, I wouldn't say Steve is my favorite character like yours, but I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, that's exactly why I love Captain America, not even just Steve Rogers, but just Captain America in general. And like you were saying, very similar situation with me, a lot of my friends and even me, got picked on and stuff when we were little. And I think I could say like every single fight that I've ever been in was because I was like trying to stick up for somebody else, or because someone was messing with somebody, and you know what I mean? So I'm with you right there. I really relate to that as well. And I think that's why Steve or like I said, the title Captain America relates to so many people. And it's not just, oh, I love my country, so I love Captain America. Like, that's really one of the last things on the list of why Cap is such a great character, to me at least.
Facts. I would say for me as well, I'm nerdy. I grew up in a small town in the middle of West Texas, right? I grew up on a ranch, but I was into comic books, and I was in theater, and I was in art, and y'all can imagine how my childhood went in a small town, being that kid surrounded with, God, beer, and football America. And you, sir, as a Captain America fan from Ireland, I feel like have such a great grasp on who Steve Rogers is at his core as a person, not just as Captain America, that when you talk about Cap and you give these giant threads on him and you go on one of your Cap moments and just let it all fly, you have made me have a new appreciation for a character that I didn't think I would find new appreciation for as an adult. And I know I'm very biased as your friend, but I truly hold you as like the best Cap account out there strictly for that. You don't have the red, white, and blue all-American patriotism, right? Like wrapped in the middle of it. You see him for who he is, and I love that about you, sir. Truly.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say too, we're gonna get into this a little bit more, but I mean, even just from the new issue, the what is it, Liberty of Justice, or Sentinel of Liberty? Yeah, and I haven't gotten through the full issue. I haven't gotten through the full thing yet, but even just the first couple pages when he's talking about how he runs with the shield, because the shield is not him. The shield is all of us. And like, I think that one line and that page just kind of really sums up what we're kind of talking about here, and you know how you relate to him. Again, it's not the patriotism, it's not the USA side of it. It's Steve, Captain America, the shield. It represents all of us, everyone, and it represents that we can all do better. Speaking of the newest runs, let's kind of get into that a little bit. So I have read issue 0. I've read Sam Wilson's issue, and then I started Sentinel. I got to say, I haven't finished it yet. I was reading a couple pages right before we started recording here. So I read a little bit, but I guess we could start with talking about issue 0, because in my opinion, issue 0 has been the best of the 3 so far. Like, that one I was expecting it to be good, but I was like literally blown away after reading it. I was like, holy shit, this was like really, really good. And go ahead.
The art in issue 0, like, listen, if you're a comic reader out there and you are hearing this, or you are watching this and you have not picked it up, and you have been looking for a comic with just absolutely banger art, and you have not picked up issue 0, hit the pause button on this video, on this podcast, put it on your Spotify, wherever you listen while you drive. Go, get in your car, hop on a bus, whatever, go to your local comic shop and pick up issue 0, because the art is insane. That scene where it's the two of them,
it's so good. Yeah, like you said, the art is literally incredible, and I love the story too. I liked how it wasn't, don't get me wrong, I love a good story plot, and like getting the quote unquote journey going, but I liked how in issue 0 it was just kind of a side, almost like fun adventure with the two Caps. You know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily like, oh, this is setting up for everything that's going to come. It was just like a quick little adventure featuring the two Caps, and it was just badass. Like you said, the art was incredible. There was awesome action scenes in there. And yeah, it was, like I said, I'm blown away, but we're going off on tangents here. We got to hear from the man himself. Cap, what did you think of issue 0?
Issue 0 was a big surprise. Like, I was expecting it to be good, but not that good. Like, basing my opinion off it just on the likes of Kang and stuff like that, stuff that Colin Kelly and Jackson. I'm not going to attempt it. I'm not going to attempt this. But basing my opinion off Kang from beforehand, I was expecting it to be good, but man, that blew me away big time. That art was words, man. No words.
I haven't looked it up. I have to look up the names. Gorgon, you might know this because you're a big Valkyrie guy. Is it the same artist that did Valkyrie? The last one?
I do believe so. It is the same artist. Now, I could be incorrect. I have been moving, and my brain is in boxes.
Yeah, I want to say, like I said, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I want to say it's the same artist. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments so we can give the right credit to where credit is due. But man, that art is just incredible. Like, it's the realism of it, and like the way that the colors work. I don't know. he or she or they are amazing. I can't say anything more. Like, their art is just incredible. But Cap, I do want to ask you, so for the non-Cap experts here, so I've read Sam Wilson's Cap run, but this was a long time ago. So can you give me a little rundown of, so obviously in issue 0 and in these new issues, we have 2 Caps. We have Sam Wilson Cap and we have Steve Rogers Cap. But didn't Sam go back to Falcon at least for a little while from his original Captain America run? Can you give me just a little, breakdown on that? Like, how did we get back to 2 Caps again,
Right. So Sam left behind the title of Captain America whenever Hydra Steve was defeated and original Steve came back. Steve took up the mantle of Captain America again, which was the start of Ta-Nehisi Coates' run. I probably butchered his name, and I apologize for that if you're watching, Mr. Coates. Hopefully you are. But Sam let Steve have the title then. Steve took the title back, and then in the United States of Captain America, whenever Steve's shield was stole, he needed the help of Sam, his old friend Falcon at the time. But Steve asked him to put on the suit, grab the shield. So Sam was like, well, where does this leave me? What's going on, How come I'm back in the suit? Why do I have the shield? He was like, well, surprise for you. Welcome back, Captain America. And he's like, whoa, hold on a minute. And Steve's like, yeah, we're going to need all the Captain Americas we have. So first he recruits Sam, and he's like, you're Captain America again. So throughout that run, or mini, they're just cutting about, recruiting other Captain Americas, which is why there's John Walker, Bucky, and all these other agents. Captain America, like the railroad. Like the railroad network brings along all them. And then in issue, let's see if I can point to it. 0, somewhere over there.
Say our Eagle Eye fans will have to, scope that one out, but it's there, I swear.
Enhance.
So yeah, in issue 0, I think that's the definitive. Well, we're both Captain America here. I wasn't joking. I wasn't taking a piss out of you last time. You're Captain America. I am Captain America. Well, sure.
Yeah, and I absolutely loved that panel from issue 0. I know we keep talking about issue 0. We got to move on, but that panel. What up, Gorgon?
It's hard not to, right? Because
is.
the people you're about to talk about has such social impact right now in the conversation regarding Captain America. Is it just, for Steve Rogers? Is it a title? Is it a mantle? Like, is it, can there be more than one? Like, there's this whole conversation, and I think it's important to notate that the culture in the United States over the last 5-6 years directly had an impact on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, with him publicly picking up the shield. And I think it definitely had an impact in the writing and the way the story was told in issue 0. And issue 0 came forward with that panel where they're both saying, I'm Captain America at the same time, and listen, fighting it all, right? It is so socially relevant right now. It's, if you've been on comic book Twitter, you cannot escape the toxic nature that comes within, a micro community, right? It's going to happen in every fandom. And that toxic conversation that shouldn't be there, that's absolutely, let's call it what it is founded in racism and bigotry, right, against Sam Wilson. This very first issue 0, just comes right out of the park and knocks it in your face to those people that they're wrong.
Yeah.
That both Captain America, absolutely, and it doesn't hold back. And I think given the social political aspects of the time surrounding the conversation, it makes the art in issue 0 with it and the writing feel just absolutely impactful because it is. You know, it's hard to, we could sit here and talk about issue 0 for like 2 hours because of how hard it hit that modern conversation. And it just relentlessly was just like, nope, you're wrong. They're both Captain America. Suck it or get out. But
yeah, and I love too, even like like you said, like they did not hold back with it. And I love the little dialogue where he's like, no hyphen, like no, like, oh, you know, Falcon, Captain America, like we're both just like, how about just both Captain America? Like there doesn't have to be a 2 or
a spectacular captain.
Yeah, exactly. Or any kind of like, no, he is Captain America and Steve is Captain America. You don't like it, then get the fuck out, you know? And I love that. And it's just, I could talk, like you said, we could talk about that all day. But to move on a little bit, let's talk about, so after issue 0, we get into Sam's first issue. And I will be honest here, I know I'm the guy who always loves everything, but I will say I was a little underwhelmed with Sam's first issue. I wouldn't say it was bad. I didn't not like it. I just felt it was a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Mundane, I guess you could say. Like, I just felt like not a lot really happened in the issue, and it was just a lot of setup for what we're going to see in the series, which, like I said, I don't want to even say that as a negative because, you know, obviously we have to set things up in order to get the train moving. So again, I don't want this to sound like a negative or like I'm trashing the book. I just felt personally, like I said, after reading it, I was a little underwhelmed. And I think maybe that also is too because I was so excited for it that maybe my excitement got the best of me. But I want to hear what you guys think. Am I off base here? Did you guys feel similar? What did you guys think of Sam's first issue?
I personally, like, I enjoyed it, but I get what you're saying. Like, it was just a filler. Like, there was nothing, no major impact. It didn't blow me out of the water. I think what I was expecting to be so much more because of how good issue 0 was. So
agreed.
A wee bit lackluster in that sense, but like I still enjoyed it. The art was really good.
Yeah, like you said, the art was really good. I enjoyed it for the aspect of, like I said, seeing where it's going to go. But I agree with you. I think after issue 0, my hype was kind of here. And like you said, it felt like a filler issue. Like it almost felt like I don't know, like an issue 6 or 7 sort of deal. Like kind of just a lot of information. It didn't feel like a breakout first issue. Like, okay, we're starting this series. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Gorgon, what'd you think?
I absolutely get the criticism that it felt like it was just building. Right, I say that as a symbiote fan, right? I feel like a lot of new comics have this when you pick up a title, right? When artists change hands and the story changes hands and the vision board changes, a lot of times your first issue is less of picking up the pieces and more establishing the direction those pieces are headed in, right? I definitely felt like coming off the back of issue 0, our first little issue with Sam on his own was more of setting the pace for this is where he's headed, right? And I get that because I think they have long-term plans, and I feel like a lot of long-term planned out things usually start that way. I'm more excited to see where the Sam run sets by issue like 4 or 5, right? Give me enough issues where I have a whole volume basically in front of me that I can sit and power through in a single sitting and then really have a feel for it. I think it'll be like full speed ahead by then, but I definitely think issue 1 fell into that whole we're setting up where we're headed, you know, style format. Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of long runs, you know, plan that way. It's just one of those. I think as comic fans, sometimes we have one of those or two of those back to back, and a lot of comic readers just go, not for me. And I say, hold on, give it like 3 more issues, see where it's at.
Yeah.
Get the volume in front of you.
Well, everyone out there knows me and Gorgon have been rooting for Venom and Hulk this whole time, and I think a lot of people have the same criticism of those books as well. The kind of setup takes a little long for them, which I can understand for sure, but all we're saying is let it play out. Give it a chance to play out a little bit. And I think the Sam Wilson run is not suffering, but is dealing with the kind of same issue right now. I think they're setting things up and people just need to be a little patient. Like, the train will get moving. We just need to let a few issues fly first. So moving on then. So then we have Sentinel of Liberty. So Steve Rogers' first issue. And like I said earlier in the episode, I haven't gotten through the whole thing yet, but I did read the first couple pages and I'm already in love with it. It's closer to that feeling I had reading issue 0 than with Sam's run. Again, not trying to talk bad about the Sam book. I'm fully on board, but those first couple pages of that Sentinel of Liberty were, to me, just pure Captain America. Well, what did you guys think?
I definitely agree. I think it feels closer to issue 0 because the writers are the same, It's both Colin Kelly and Jackson, surname again. Both of them. They're a really good team. I really like them. But Steve's first issue, the art as well. Carmen Carnero is oh my God, she's amazing.
So give us a little bit of a rundown. Spoilers out there for people who haven't read the issue yet. Like I said, so I haven't finished it. So give us just like a quick little rundown. Where does this issue leave us?
Well, not the last page as such, but the last page with Steve or Bucky. Bucky is sitting in front. He's actually sitting on his bed in front of like one of them boards. Oh, what do you call them? One of the boards with like
the conspiracy board kind of thing.
Yes. Like a conspiracy board.
Say
he has one down.
Gorgon's lab.
He has one person marked off, and he has 1 down, 4 to go. So that leaves us wondering, what is Bucky's story in all this? Who's he? We know he's hunting for his past to find out how he became Winter Soldier, what he done, etc. So it leaves the question, who's next? So that obviously comes into play, and maybe not the next issue, but the next few issues. And then Steve's looking to find out more about his past as well, what the shield represents, who it was made by, how it came about. So that's real interesting. It's something we haven't come across yet.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. So, like I said, I've read the first couple pages, and the first page is dude forging the shield. And so you're the expert on this. And from my limited Cap knowledge that I have, so in the books, the shield is adamantium, correct?
It was, but it's now considered a vibranium steel alloy.
Okay, so it's been changed in the books since originally, because again, correct me if I'm wrong, but originally the shield was adamantium, right?
Yeah, vibranium, adamantium. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they changed it due to the MCU not having the rights to adamantium, so just to line them two up,
Yeah. So that's a more recent kind of change then, the adamantium vibranium.
Not recent per se, but within the last.
I'd say the last decade, last 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
For sure, because that's what I was wondering when I was reading that panel. I was like, well, because one, it brings the question whether it's vibranium or adamantium. It brings up the question, how did someone forge the metal in the first place? But like I said, I was just curious. I was like, obviously in the MCU it's vibranium, but originally in the books it was adamantium. Is this, like, I was just wondering, is this still adamantium? Is this vibranium now? Like, what metal are we working with these days?
It was both adamantium and vibranium, but because of the MCU, I think they had to lean more towards it's a vibranium steel alloy, just to line it up with the MCU, because they didn't have the rights to adamantium because it was X-Men, Fox, you know.
Right, and they got those rights now, so changes could be coming, right?
Could be. Maybe this one breaks and they need a tougher one.
I think speaking of, like you said, now that they have the rights to it, if I had to put a best guess out there, I would say that I think that when they do introduce adamantium in the MCU, I think it's going to be a sort of kind of subsect of vibranium. Like, whoever develops adamantium, I think they're going to develop it from vibranium. And it's going to be the kind of, new metal on the block, if you would. And like I said, that's just my theory of how we're going to get it. Because it would be weird if, like, Wolverine shows up and they're just like, yeah, dude has metal bones, but it's a metal that we've never heard of,
Or, you know what would be cool? If they find Logan, or they find Logan, right? And they're doing their tests on him, and then next minute, hey, wait, this guy's bones are made from the same metal as Steve's shield. And they're like,
I will say though, I was just rewatching First Avenger yesterday for Cap's birthday. I do think though, I think that there's more to the shield in the MCU than we know. Because when we first introduced to the shield, when Howard Stark gives it to him, he's like, oh, like, that's just a prototype, blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, that's vibranium, and that's the last bit of it that we have. And this has been a question in the MCU for a long time, but one, how did he get that vibranium? You could say that he got it from Claw, because we know that Claw stole a bunch of them, and that, he had a relationship with the Starks. But I think that there's a lot more to be answered of how he got the shield. And also, that doesn't explain how he forged the shield in the first place. Because the way that I understand it, at least in the MCU world, Wakandans are the only ones that know how to work with vibranium, and that can, forge it and or use it to make weapons and, clothing, whatever. So I know Howard Stark is a very, very smart man, but I don't know if he would be able to take that piece of vibranium and make it into a shield. So I think there's a lot more to learn about where Steve's original shield came from. And I think, again, if this is playing out the way that we're kind of theorizing, maybe it is already a mix of vibranium and adamantium.
It's actually one thing I've never thought about. Like, obviously, like you said, we've seen it. It was already a shield. He says it was a prototype, but that's one thing I've never thought about. Like, how was it already a shield? Where did it come from? How did it get
also too, a prototype for who? Because like, Howard Stark kind of dismisses it. He's like, oh yeah, that's a prototype, don't worry about that. And he's showing him all these other shields. So that makes me think that they developed that shield before Cap was Cap. Because he's like, yeah, don't worry about that. That's just something that we were working on. So if he made that as a prototype for Cap, why would he not be like, yo, check this one out? You get what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe Howard had the idea of being Iron Man before Iron Man was an idea.
True. Maybe Howard was going to take up the shield, Iron Shield. Did I blow your mind, Gorgon, with that?
No, because I thought we had this talk before, right? About, like, why would you say prototype, right? And if we don't know who it's a prototype for, you had a prototype before Cap existed. So who is it for? Hear me out. Mutants. Hold on, because you mentioned Logan coming in. Logan could come in easy. We know from Venom comics, right, and other things, and all of his history, that Logan, James Howlett, however you want to refer to the guy, he's been around for a long fucking time, right? And he's been doing stuff in the dark with S.H.I.E.L.D. for a long time. I think it's entirely possible that adamantium already exists and is already on his body. It was just a SHIELD and government secret that nobody knew about. And when we find out about the mutants, all of like their history with them will slowly come out in time in the MCU, right? What if it's the same thing with the SHIELD? What if the SHIELD is something that we find out later was somehow tied to that stuff back in the day, right?
Yeah.
We all make jokes about Captain Krakoa right now. Well, what if there was going to be like a mutant who was a Captain-esque person who needed a shield back in the day? And because Stark was a genius, he would have been working directly with that section of SHIELD secret top level clearance stuff. If anyone had knowledge of it, it would absolutely be that man. Him or Reed Richards, right? That's it. So yeah, why not make it related to a mutant? I don't know. I could be like completely off in left field, but I could absolutely see that's where the MCU, if they answer, what was this a prototype for? Well, there was mutant and blah 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 back in the day, you know. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, hey, anything is possible. I think that is for sure possible. And like you were saying, just the kind of, I think it could definitely be possible that the connection's already there. We just don't know it yet. You know what I mean?
Like for the MCU, that John Walker doesn't get good shields. That makes me happy, right? Because his broke in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and to pick up another one, right? It's not like there's just like a stockpile of vibranium they can suction print to new shields just laying around at the shield factory, right? Shield the organization, not shield the item, right? And that's a running gag in the comics too, right? In Priest U.S. Agent run, 2 years ago on it, right? He kept ruining shields, and literally his little jet thing has a rolling rack of extra shields for him because he breaks them so regularly they won't give him good shields. Like your budget Captain America gets budget shields, and I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, speaking of Cap and the MCU, we're talking all this MCU talk. Let's get into Cap into the MCU. So obviously our man Chris Evans has been playing the role for what is it? I mean, the first Avenger was in 2011, so easily a decade at this point. Cap, as the Cap expert and the comic Captain America expert, what are your thoughts on our man Chris Evans as Steve Rogers? I know that's kind of a big question. He's been in all these movies, but I don't want to necessarily talk about any specific movie right now. Just what do you think of Cap in the MCU? Him as a character, Steve as he is represented in this MCU world. What are your thoughts on MCU Cap?
Right. So I have quite a lot of thoughts on the MCU Cap. Overall, absolutely love him. He's my guy. But that being said, I think he feels a little inexperienced. Like,
okay,
in the first few Captain America films, he's coming across as if he's winging it a lot. Like, I know Steve's supposed to plan it out. I mean, he's supposed to go to plan. It's supposed to 9 times out of 10 work anyway. But a lot of MCU Steve is just change your plan and work with it. Hasn't worked.
Yeah,
with,
kind of fly by the seat of your pants, sort of.
Yeah. Overall, I really like him. Like, cannot have any more love for the guy. But at the same time, I feel like they just don't show him as much love and attention as they should have. Like, they should have given, he's a leader. He needs to be the focus point. He needs to be the guy calling all the shots, no matter who's getting paid more, whether it's Robert Downey Jr. or Mark Ruffalo, whatever. Doesn't matter who's getting paid more. Let Captain America call the shots.
I can agree with that for sure. Yeah, and I think too. I mean, even in while I personally I think Cap's trilogy, like the 3 Cap movies, is definitely the best trilogy of the MCU, and I'll even say one of the best trilogies of all time. I think the three of them together just work very well. But I will say I agree with you, and you bringing this up, in all those movies, even in Civil War, we don't really see Cap like leading people, like we get a little bit of that in the first Avenger with the Howling Commandos. And I think that if we would have got a little bit more of that type of stuff, I think, not that it would be better, because again, I love the movies as they are, but I would have loved to see, like you were saying, a little bit more of Cap being that leader and leading the team, whether it's the Avengers or the Howling Commandos, or even just him, leading a group of soldiers into, something or whatever. I definitely agree with you. I feel like a lot of times it's more, which is again not a criticism, but it's more team focused. And Cap is kind of like, okay, like let's go and let's do it. It's not, okay, here's the plan. I guess we get a little bit of it in the Avengers movie, because remember there's that scene where he's like, Iron Man, you patrol, the skies, Hawkeye, Black Widow, you got the ground, like Hulk smash. So you get a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But I think again, to go with what you're saying, I would have liked to see a little bit more of that kind of stuff.
Like I'm not saying he has to be shown to be writing out a plan, telling people, here, you do this, you do that. Even just something over the comms. Black Widow, we've got a situation here, do this.
Yeah.
Oh, right, go do this. It doesn't have to be something major, just wee tiny things. It's the little things that matter in life,
Absolutely. Gorgon, what do you think?
Let me ask you guys this. And you don't have to explain if you don't want. What is your favorite Captain America movie of his trilogy, and is it your favorite MCU movie with Captain America? We'll start with you, Thor.
Start with me? Okay, well, I'm gonna have that's really hard, because I like them all for different reasons. You know what I mean? Like I said, I really enjoy the first one because we get a lot of I personally, probably one of my favorite scenes in all of the MCU is with him and Dr. Erskine when he's still skinny Steve, and he's telling him like, it doesn't matter if you're a good soldier. Like what matters is that you're a good man. And like the serum enhances what's already there. So if you're bad, it makes you worse. And if you're good, it makes you better. And and with that too, like we were just talking about him leading the Howling Commandos and, him actually in a war. I love that. It to me just feels like Captain America. But if I had the, gun to my head, I have to pick a favorite. I have to go Winter Soldier, because not only is it one of my favorite Cap movies, but it's definitely still in my top 5 of MCU overall. That movie is just the action, the suspense, everything is so great. The ending with Cap when he has that great monologue of you guys can correct me, but when he says something along the lines of like, things are always hard and freedom doesn't come easy, but we need, now is when we need to step up. Whatever he says, it was just like, let's go, dude. Like, this is Cap. Like, you know what I mean? So I got to go Winter Soldier.
I feel like Matt is going to judge us based on our answers here. I really like seeing his facial reactions as we answer the question. And, got to save the best for last. My favorite Captain America movie of the trilogy is also Winter Soldier, for very similar reasons. Yes, I'm very, notoriously not the biggest fan of our government. And I love seeing this person whose herald is like, you're the savior of this country and all the government stands for, directly call out the government when they're wrong and say, no, that's very much who Steve is. He doesn't, as much as he's all red, white, and blue American man, born on July 4th, a true patriot, right on it, he believes in what this country should be, not what it is. He believes it can be better.
Well said.
And he doesn't like how they're doing it, and he calls it out. And I hate the criticism that Winter Soldier is one of the biggest pieces of pro-military propaganda in the United States. Like, bitch, how? Because it's all about how the government is fucked, corrupt, wrong. You have Captain America is a literal fucking war criminal in that movie, right? And it leads to Civil War, where again he is still a war criminal. Captain America is a war criminal standing up against the United States of America for their wrongdoing. What? How is that? Like, I love it, and I think it's Bucky, honestly, though, more than anything, that does it for me. I had a brother, and I miss my little brother dearly, and the relationship he has with Bucky is so much like brothers. Just giving each other a hard time constantly, going to the ends to be there for each other, always believing in each other, and their relationship truly makes that movie for me. Despite the fact that, like, yes, we have footage and it was Bucky there and he did this, right? Like, Cap's also a realist. He gets how screwed the government's been from the start, and he gets, no, man, that was Bucky's body, but not Bucky. That's not his brain. That's not him, man. Like, and he will fight for the truth despite the circumstances. He will fight for the truth, and I love it. And it's coincidentally my favorite movie with Captain America in the MCU because of that relationship. Because I felt it was quintessential Captain America, right? If it were a comic, it would be reading, right? It would be what you'd have to read pinnacle-wise. Cap fights against the government and is considered a war criminal, right? Like that is quintessential Cap. He was doing leading the commanding speech on the phone to everybody in the war room there at the end, like the way he took down that chopper with the shield, just like it is the perfect, for me, Captain America movie in the MCU. It takes the cake for me on top.
Hard agree.
Now we get to leave the best for last.
Yeah, I say so. Cap, tell us why we're stupid, or tell us why we're right.
Movie of the trilogy.
I So, fun fact, I agree with everything you say.
Hey. So we're not that stupid, Gorgon.
Definitely not. Definitely not. No.
Not today.
Winter Soldier, it's such a good film. It has so many different themes in it. It has your comic book theme, it has spy thriller, it has real life shit. It's so many good things mixed into one, and it works out perfectly. And the acting too. Chris Evans, I think that's the film he plays Captain America the best in. Like, he really goes out of his way to play that role. He nails it in every sense. But like Gorgon was saying, the relationship between him and Bucky, the moment when they're on the highway and they're fighting, Cap rips off his mask, or well, it falls off whenever Bucky falls, and he's like, Bucky? And he's like, who the hell is Bucky? That's ripped straight out of the Winter Soldier comic, and that is what had it sold for me. I was like, oh shit is about to go down here.
Yeah,
oh,
Cap's like,
into the good
I remember
stuff.
that.
Like that Leonardo DiCaprio movie.
Dude, that knife fight is probably one of the best like fight choreographies I've seen in a long time. Like, it is just so mesmerizing.
Still a standout for me. It's my favorite MCU film. It's my favorite Captain America film, and it's my favorite film in general. Like, don't get me wrong, the first Avenger is a great Captain America film, but this one is
Winter Soldier,
completely different. It's so good.
And I'll say too, just really quickly, I just want to say this about the knife scene too. The knife fight, the music during that sequence is absolutely incredible. Like, I was watching it yesterday, and while the flourishy fight movements are super cool, the soundtrack behind it just makes that scene so much more intense. Like, it goes really quiet, and then like that Winter Soldier kind of screech theme comes in, like building that tension. And just the use of like I said, the score plus the action and the kind of suspense of that whole the bridge sequence is just A1 movie making, I think. Like, it was just such a great sequence.
Fun fact about the Winter Soldier theme, actually, from in the first Avenger, whenever Bucky's falling off the train and his squill, whenever Steve can't save him, that squill was pulled from then and put over the theme for the Winter Soldier. So it's actually Bucky's Scream You Hear anytime you see the Winter Soldier, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I knew that, and that's one of my favorite kind of fun facts about Cap and the MCU, because that is just so genius. And not only is it genius, but it works so well. Because like I said, when that
it gives
it's
me
like
chills.
Yeah, like I don't even want to like try and recreate it because it's gonna sound ridiculous, but it's like that kind of just like high pitch kind of, not even a wail. It's just like really kind of gives you a chill in your bones real quick. And to find that, like you said, it's his actual scream, like distorted from when he originally fell. The symbolism behind that, I think, is just beautiful, and it works so well. And I also want to say too, we're talking about the relationship between Cap and Bucky. That scene in the end, like even just talking about it makes me like feel like I'm gonna start tearing up. But when Winter Soldier's just beating the shit out of Steve, and he's like, I'm with you till the end of the line. Like, oh dude, it's so good. That line right there is just so amazing, and it hits you in all the right places.
You're gonna make me cry, man. You're gonna make me cry.
I would say it's such a good movie, and like it's just such a good scene. That one, scene is just so powerful. And I think that moment really sets up everything to come afterwards between Steve and Bucky. Like that was Bucky's, or the Winter Soldier's, first realization of like, okay, who am I? Like, I'm not this robot assassin. Like, I was a person at one point. And I think that's really what sets him on his redemption arc.
Yeah, 100%.
So here's a question with the Shield talk. We've mentioned him a couple of times now. Starting earlier with your whole United States of Captain America, where kind of all this began, moving us into this new run where they're recruiting all these other captains, and they pull in Walker, who is the U.S. agent. Immediately after that, where we see them pulling him in that, right, trying to make him be a Captain America and a hero, we see him appear in Devil's Reign in Villains for Hire, leading the Thunderbolts, or a makeshift version of the Thunderbolts for Fisk in the city, enforcing Fisk's like law, but he's there to like wrangle in and put the whoop on all these guys, right? And then we find out he has a microphone tapped to him, and he's trying to record everything Fisk is doing. So it seems like Walker does want to do better. Per always, he does want to do better, but his methods that he goes about his intentions are still not always, how do I put it, they're still questionable at best pretty regularly, right? Do you think we will ever get to a point in the MCU where Walker can be regarded as an anti-hero, or do you think he will always kind of have this, the man's trying, but he still has his head up his ass? Do you think he will ever get past that in the MCU or the comics? Do you think he will ever become a full-on, John Walker is a fully functioning anti-hero, not he wants to do good, but his head's up his ass half the time? Or do you think he's stuck there?
I do and I don't. I think it depends. Like, I think we will get a full-on anti-hero, but whether or not the actor wants to stay around long enough for him to become the anti-hero, because it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be you're a villain, not necessarily a villain now, but you do this, you can become an anti-hero next film. I don't think it'll be that. It'll be over the span of so many films or TV shows or whatever. But I think we will eventually get an anti-hero.
Do you think that in comics he's stuck though? Because I've heard that criticism, right? That despite all the times John Walker's like rewrote, like we got the Priest run, right? And it was a good little mini U.S. agent, don't get me wrong, but it still feels like that he's trying to do the right thing, but he still has his head up his ass part of the time trying to pull stuff off. And some people have made the criticism where they feel like John Walker's in a permanent like cocoon of, it's like a perpetual cycle. I want to do better. Goes about trying to do better the wrong way with his head up his ass. Shit works out in the end. I'll do better next time. Tries to do better. Kind of has his head up his ass. Things don't go so right. Says I'll do better next time. Right? Like, is he stuck in a death loop, or do you think he really just needs like his own writer to fix it? What do you think?
I think there's two ways of going about it. I think maybe like depending on what the story overall is that's planned out for John, that he could possibly be just stuck and that is who he is now. But at the same time, I think with the right guidance, say if we were to get maybe a mini with John and Steve working together, just them two, no one else, no Sam, no Bucky, no one, just them two working together. John tries to do it his way, doesn't work out. So Steve's like, let me show you a way to do it. Do it this way, do it that way. Oh, okay. There's always another way to do it. So after the minute, there could be that possibility of John taking that into account. Steve taught me this, that I shouldn't do it this way. Maybe try next time, do it this way. And then that's how his growth into maybe a hero begins. Who knows? But I don't think he's stuck forever. I don't think that's who he is or who he will be forever. I think eventually we will get a better John Walker.
I hope so. I definitely agree with both you guys. I always think of John Walker kind of as Gorgon. You might know what I'm talking about. You're into like mythology and stuff, but that one Greek myth with the guy who like is continuously pushing the boulder uphill, but like will never reach the top of the hill.
I knew where you were headed, man. Trying to, but he just can't quite reach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think Walker is kind of that character where he is always pushing that boulder up the hill, and you know, while he might have good intentions, he can never reach the top of that hill. He is always going to be pushing and always kind of getting in his own way, like his own, I don't know if you want to call it hubris or, you know, his own, the way he looks at the world kind of gets in the way of his intentions, which I think are usually good. And I think that's one of the things I liked about him in Falcon and Winter Soldier is while he's for sure a dickhead, like don't get me wrong, he's a dickhead in the show, but I got the sense at least that he honestly believes that he's just trying to do the best that he can. Like he's trying to be this new Captain America, and then like he's not doing it for nefarious reasons. You know, he genuinely wants to be a good Captain America, but he just, you know, for lack of a better, you know, word or term, he's not Steve Rogers. And, you know, no matter how good of a soldier he is, what he doesn't understand is what made Steve Captain America. And we all know it's not the serum, it's not the superpowers, it's who Steve is as a person. And I think that's the vital thing that Walker will never understand. And that's why he'll always be, again, pushing up that hill, because he doesn't get that core aspect.
I think that was obviously that was one of the running themes in the TV show, was to make it seem as if John was trying too hard to be Steve.
Yeah, but exactly.
With time and with growth, we'll get to that stage where John no longer tries to do what Steve does, tries to be Steve, but then just thinks, you know,
okay,
what would Captain America do rather than what would Steve Rogers do? You know, what does Captain America stand for? How would he handle this kind of thing? Rather than, right, I'm Steve Rogers, what should I do next, sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think what you're saying here kind of really hits it on the head of the real core difference between someone like Walker and someone like Sam, because I feel Walker is trapped in this. I have to live up to Steve. I have to, I have to be the new Steve Rogers. But Sam Wilson is like, no, I'm not Steve Rogers. I'm Captain America. Like, but that doesn't mean that I'm Steve Rogers. I'm the new, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still Sam Wilson. Like, that's why he's not trying to be like Steve. He's being his own Captain America, which I think that's ultimately, one of the big reasons why Steve chose Sam in the first place, was because he knew that he's going to take the shield and stand for what the shield should stand for, not stand for what Steve Rogers should stand for. You get what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. He wasn't picked because he could be Captain America. He was picked because he's just a good man,
Well, same, like we were talking about earlier, same reason that Steve was chosen in the beginning. There's the scene where they have the one, like, super soldier guy, and they're like, he's passed all of his tests, he's physically fit and all that. But Erskine is adamant that, no, Steve is the right person. It's not about your physical strength. It's about who you are, what your heart is. And I think, Sam is the best person to pick that up, and that's what Steve sees in him. He sees himself.
Yeah, 100%.
And speaking of all this, I think this is a good jump away segment too. So I gotta know, before we get out of here, what is your theory? Where is Cap in the MCU? Are we thinking old man Steve? Is old man Steve out there just kind of chilling? And I also do want to get your thoughts a little bit on the whole. So when Steve goes back to be with Peggy, right? Are you of the mind that is he in an alternate timeline and he lives out his life with Peggy? Or is he the father of Peggy's kids that we see in Winter Soldier, and that there is another Steve somewhere out there that has just kind of been in the background this whole time?
I am.
I know it's kind of a loaded question.
I like both theories. I like the one that he's in a different timeline, just living out his life. But at the same time, I like the theory that he is the father and there's two Steves. But surely that would then bring the TVA into it, because you can't have two Steves. Take away the one that shouldn't be there, So he couldn't be the parents to Peggy's children. I am. Man,
I just want to clarify. There's a theory that Steve Rogers, the man who kissed Sharon Carter, is Sharon Carter's father.
No, uncle. Because isn't Sharon Peggy's niece, right?
Yeah.
So that would make Steve her uncle.
Daughter. Got it. Perfect. I wanted to clarify, because I figured somebody's going to be listening to this and go, wait a minute, that sounds fishy.
Yeah.
So I might as well play advocate for a moment. Let's just get all that out there.
I think my biggest thing, not criticism, but why I think that there's not two Steves is, like you said, you bring up a great point about the TVA. Now that we have the TVA, we kind of know, like, they would definitely not be cool with that. But my biggest reasoning, and especially, like I said, since I just watched Winter Soldier yesterday, is I just don't think that if there were two Steves and, like, Peggy married Steve and they had children in our main 616 MCU, I like when she sees him at the hospital when she's super old. So did, like, her and old Steve, like, coach each other, like, okay, so my younger version is going to come visit you in the hospital and you got to act like you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And we also see that that interview with her when he goes to the Cap Museum, and she's like, oh yeah, he saved over 1,000 men that day. One of those men happened to be my husband. It just seems like a very convoluted lie that they would have had to come up with to justify, like I said, that Steve was her husband. And again, she's super old and she's senile. So how would she remember, like, oh, I can't tell this young version of my husband that he's going to go back in time. And you know what I mean? I think it creates a lot more questions than it does answers. So that's why I'm on the firm belief that they live in a separate timeline. Peg in our 616, Peggy just found some other soldier and they, you know, fell in love, had kids because Steve wasn't there. Doesn't mean that she doesn't love Steve or that Steve's not her soulmate. It just means like in our main 616, things, you know, worked out a little different.
Yeah.
Morgan, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, I am all here for a good comic conspiracy theory. I am all in.
We know.
I think for me, and this is going to floor both you guys, coming from me, I don't think it matters. And I like the mystery. For me, I feel like that's an excellent send-off that we got to Captain America, which I think is what it was supposed to be, right? A passing the torch, I'm going to go do my own thing. You going to tell me about it? No, I don't think I will. I don't think we need to know. That is his moment. But whatever happiness Steve got that he wanted to keep to himself, I think he's earned that. And I you know, it's fun to sit and theorize. I love sitting here making conspiracy theories all day, but this is the one area where I don't don a tinfoil hat. I just accept Steve got happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And after all that man's been through, he's earned it. And if he wants to keep however long that moment of happiness was his and hold it dear, that's fine.
I
Captain
like that.
America's earned it. And
absolutely.
He got happiness, and I think that's what matters.
Yeah. So Cap, I got to ask you again. So besides the alternate timeline, Steve, real timeline, Steve, no matter what our thoughts are, where do you think Steve is now? Is he on the moon? Is he on the Triskelion with, what's it called? With Nick Fury and the Skrulls? What do you think? Where do you think he's at? And do you think we'll see him? Do you think we'll see Old Man Steve?
Yes, I do. I don't think I love the moon idea. I love Steve. I just love the idea of him being on the moon in a secret base. That's if anyone follows me on Twitter here, you'll see that my location is Steve's secret moon base. You know.
Oh hell yeah!
I absolutely love that, but I don't think he's on the moon. I don't think he's with Nick Fury, but I think he's running Shield. Like a new Shield. Like if you want Shield done right, you're gonna want the one guy who knows what Shield stands for. And that's Captain America.
I like that a lot.
Cap is no longer Cap anymore. We have a new one, but we still have Steve Rogers, Old Man Steve, head of Shield. You know,
I honestly love that.
Secret Wars is coming up potentially. It's been teased enough anyway.
Yeah, I think Secret Wars, we're still got a good couple years for that. But I love this idea of him like starting a new Shield. And I think it would be easy to do as well. Like you could do it similarly like in what was it, WandaVision, where we find out that Monica's mom, Maria Rambeau, like founded S.W.O.R.D. and you kind of just see the portrait of her on the wall. They could do something similarly to Steve, because we were talking about this in the chat a couple of days ago, but how Chris Evans has stated like he'll basically only come back if it's something perfect. Like he's not going to come back just to do like a throwaway cameo. So if you just had like, oh yeah, this is the new Shield, and like you have a picture of Old Man Steve, like, you know, on the wall, that would be enough, and be like, yeah, Steve, you know, after coming back from whatever, he started this new faction of Shield. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, like I think it's one way to keep Steve Rogers in the MCU, but not necessarily have Chris Evans play the role. You know, so you're not taking away from Chris Evans. You're not taking away from his Captain America experience, his time as Cap. Yeah. But it's still a good way to keep the character around. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't even need to see him. Like you said, we could just say like, yeah, Steve Rogers, you know, led up this new division of Shield, and two, I have been wondering that too. Like, obviously, Shield is disbanded in Winter Soldier, but so there's just no Shield anymore. You know what I mean? Like, what happened to all those people that worked for Shield? But not the Hydra ones, obviously, but the good ones. Like, did they all just convert to Sword? Or I don't know. In my mind, I still think like Sword and Shield are two distinct entities. Like, I don't think Shield became Sword. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Corgan, what do you think?
No, they're very different. They're very different. 100%, right? Sword's important existence in the MCU being announced because of where we go in the comics with the mutants and Sword, right? That's a huge, huge deal. And it getting confirmed shortly after Marvel's acquisition of Fox and getting the rights back and everything to do was absolutely, I feel like, important, right? Them dropping Sword's existence shortly after, I think, is important because of where it goes with it. They're definitely separate entities. You know, what happened to those Shield people? I don't know. Maybe some member of Shield moves off to a made-up country and becomes an underground like crime lord. I don't know, and then starts employing a bunch of them to start doing crime things. And maybe Shield has completely turned into something else and forgotten what it is. And maybe that crime lord gets pardoned in some TV show at the end of it to come back to the United States. And it's going to have crazy things to do with it, and we'll see it all going forward. That would be crazy.
It'd be crazy.
Yeah, I definitely think, you know, with if you guys listening to this or watching this weren't catching what I was putting down, I was specifically talking about Sharon Carter, right? She became, you know, this underground crime lord, and at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, spoilers if you haven't watched it and you're missing out, she gets pardoned for all of her crimes, and she can come back to the United States, right? And I definitely think if we're going to try to find these missing Shield people or people we don't know about, she's going to be the key. She was the power broker. She has more connections than anyone else now. She is the person who can find them, bring people together, try to rebuild what is broken. I think Sharon's future in the MCU is probably a lot bigger than we give her credit for. She stands directly in the way of this woman trying to pull the strings in the Disney Plus shows, right? She, without meaning to, she stands directly in her way, realistically. And it's now that she's back in the States. And I definitely think that's going to come to play. I kind of hope that's where we see Steve again. Because you're right, he won't come back and be one-off. If he comes back, it's going to have to be important and perfect. And what could be more perfect than Peggy's niece having to call on the phone and ask for backup and help from old man Steve Rogers and have to sit down at coffee over breakfast and to explain to this man how you became an underground crime lord peddling leg super soldier serum people, helping fund a militia of them, and have to get a talking to from that man over breakfast like you were an 8-year-old who got in hella trouble by dad.
Well, especially with the serum too. I bet Steve would take that as like a slap in the face. He's like, really? You're gonna be dealing serum? Like, come on now.
But who would get onto her that she would listen to? Nick Fury? Nah, she's got mad beef at that man right now. Right? Is she going to listen to Sam get on to her? He already tried. We already saw how that went down. Not super great. I'm just saying the only person who could get through to this woman is the one man who she would never want to disappoint. And I would love to see Steve come back as an old man on his cane and have to give the I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. I think it would be perfect.
Steve, so Captain America, Sharon Carter, confirmed, next movie. Let's go.
Or back for the Union, I've heard people talk about, hey, is the Union a possibility? You know, they could have randomly like Britannia walking with their shield, talking, you know, to one of the other members, being like, you know what he told me about carrying this thing and what it symbolizes, right? And I'd be like, wait, is she talking about Steve? Nah, who's she talking about, right? Who's he? And just ignore it until the Union is in over their head. and they
Mhm.
need some hella help. And who are they going to call in the States? Who gives up about the Union in the States? Nobody. Who are they going to call? The one person who always stands up for what's right. Doesn't matter if he's
Steve.
on a case. Steve Rogers is Captain America.
Hell yeah.
What could be more fitting than you have to call Steve Rogers to fix your new wannabe Avengers program?
Yeah. I like it. I like it. I'm on board for sure. Cap, are you on board?
100%. You mentioned Steve Rogers, you have my backing.
Yeah. He's like, hey, if Steve's there, I'm there.
I'm just glad we have you back. We have missed you, sir.
Yes, we have missed you so much, Cap. We are so glad you're back. And before we get off the call and all this great Shield talk, Captain America talk, why don't you give the people a little bit some homework? Why don't you give them your recommended Cap reading? It doesn't necessarily have to be for the new run, but just someone who someone has never read a Cap issue before in their life. What runs and or starting point would you recommend to really get the essence of who Captain America is and what it means to be Captain America?
Obviously, I'll always recommend Jack Kirby's first run, the first ever Captain America run, but at the same time, for someone looking at quick start, just to figure out, do I like Captain America? You know, someone on the fence about starting, I would say not to go the whole way back to the 1940s because it can be overwhelming because there's so much. So I always say start with Mythos Captain America. It's a one shot. It sums up Steve perfectly. It shows you his childhood. It shows you him growing up. It shows a lot of skinny Steve. It shows Steve becoming the man that Steve Rogers is. And then to go on to be Captain America. It shows that it's just a really good story to figure out Steve Rogers rather than Captain America. You get me?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I always recommend that first. That's a good starting point. Some more runs I recommend would be Marvel Knights Captain America. Now that's another very good run to understand Steve just after 9/11. Racism is at its all-time highest. People are on the fence about everyone walking around. Is this the next terrorist? Is this the next, who's the enemy here? Is he, she the enemy? And Steve Rogers doesn't look at people like, is that an enemy? That's a person, If this person needs help, I'm going to help them regardless of what they look like, how they talk. It's a fantastic run for understanding Steve Rogers. And then onto the big boy, onto the
Holy
Eddie
Grail.
boy, the Holy Grail. You always have to go on to Ed Brubaker's run. Fantastic from start to finish, the whole way from Winter Soldier, going the whole way to Cap Reborn, to Americas. Just everything about it is fantastic. Even though we break in between where it's not Captain America or Steve Rogers as Captain America, but Bucky, it's just everything is fantastic.
Just A1 material.
Yeah, it's perfect in my eyes. After that, you have to then go on to his next Captain America run, which is in 2011. It follows on from, not necessarily, it's not a direct follow on, but it does reference his main 2008 run a lot. So I'd go on to that. And then after that, you have to add in the tie-in as well. You have to add in Bucky's run, the Winter Soldier. You have to add in that one too.
So basically, if it's Brubaker, you read it. Cap, Brubaker, read it.
Read it. Yeah, 100%. I will put my life on it. Yeah.
That's like Walt Simonson and Thor, or Jason Aaron and Thor. It's like if it's Thor and Jason Aaron, read it. If it's Cap, Brubaker, read it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I definitely need to do my homework. I have not read Cap in a long time, but the Brubaker run is, like you said, it's the holy grail of Cap comics. It's really, in my mind, the kind of gold standard that every Cap book since has like been trying to, you know, at least meet that kind of bar. And I think too, for people that, you know, maybe not are too into the book or comic books and maybe are just MCU fans, correct me if I'm wrong, Cap, but I would say his kind of arc throughout the movies probably would be closest to the Brubaker run. Would you say? Like as far as like with Winter Soldier, like it seems like the movies were inspired a lot from his run as opposed to some of the other ones. Am I off base with that?
No, I'd say you're not far wrong, to be fair, because like each film has different themes from different comics. Like obviously the first Avenger comes from it's Jack Kirby's original run, you know. Winter Soldier being Ed Brubaker's, and then Civil War being, well, obviously Civil War. But yeah, like no, I'd agree with you. I'd agree with you. And then there's just so many good Captain America runs. Like you can't forget the Grunwald run. Like it's perfect too. There's so many good ones.
Well, I'll have to add that to my list. Everybody out there, you got to add it to your list. You just got the official Captain America reading guide from Captain America himself. And I mean, this has just been so much fun. Again, Matt, we're just so glad to have you back. Glad to have the whole gang back together. And I'm so glad we were able to finally nerd out on this Captain America talk. I've really been looking forward to this.
So all you listeners know, we have been waiting to do a Shield Talk episode ever since the brand new Captain America run was announced, right? So we have been waiting to do this with you guys and get Cap's official reading list for y'all for a hot minute. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank y'all for coming out and watching this, listening to us nerds just nerd out and have a good time. Thank y'all for being there. If you're not following us on Twitter, you can follow us on Twitter at the Sons of Mjolnir. You can follow all of us individually at our handles where you already know us from. You already know what it is. And we're on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're already listening to this. Go find us somewhere else. Give us a thumbs up, a like, a follow. We'd really appreciate it.
Yes, we would really appreciate it. Like Gorgon said, thank you guys all for nerding out with us. I will put in the description those issues that Cap has recommended, as well as our new Twitter profile and all that great stuff. So yeah, give us a follow, subscribe if you guys like our videos, and we hope to see you all next time.
Yep. All right, guys. It's been wonderful. See you next time.
I can do this all day.